Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mindful Constitution podcast. I am really thrilled to have a guest on today that I've been actually following for quite a while on Instagram. Her name is Erin Gunzelman, and she is a spiritual mentor, guide, coach of sorts. She doesn't really love labels, but her work really focuses on guiding clients one on one to, decoding their soul and identifying patterns in their lives and really exploring how the metaphysical reality shapes our physical reality. And so I really love her account as well. And I just want to highlight this because I was telling her beforehand, but I want to make sure we do it on the podcast too. She talks a lot about spiritual awakenings and navigating them and just deep soul work. And I find her account so empowering because it really comes from a very wise, gentle, and optimistic without being toxic positivity, all love and light, as it pertains to spiritual awakenings. And personally, I find that really refreshing because I know that going through the awakening process can be very heavy sometimes. So, if you're interested in all of the things that I just mentioned, tune in and we're going to dive in. Erin, hello.
Hi. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you here. Well, for starters, just how are you today?
Really good. I'm really good today. It's so funny when you were talking about the intro and what Erin does and what my account is like on Instagram. I kept thinking about, and I haven't thought about this in a while, but it's like I think it comes across that way, like the soul stuff, because like I'm just narrating my journey. Like I'm really just sharing authentically, like the things I'm learning and like working with in my own world and the way I work with it. And so I think that's yeah, like it is really important to me to kind of put that message out there in an authentic way, a real way, a tangible way, something, pragmatic that we can really, yeah, work with when it comes to like this soul work, because it's like everything to me. Yeah.
Oh, I know, I love that. And it is nice to hear how other people perceive your work, even though it's like ultimately we're just sharing and hopefully it lands the way we're intending it to. But I think it is cool to hear from other people's perspectives, like, okay, yeah, it's coming across the way I'm wanting it to come across. And
Yeah, I
so
don't know. Yeah, sometimes it's not. I mean, at this point for me it's like it's not even about me. Like it's kind of just like this is what God wants. So we're just going to go with that and I surrender and that's what we go with because I really it's crazy trying to yeah, there's a lot on the internet. There's a lot of noise. But
oh
no
my
bypassing. I love that you said that. Yeah, we don't do bypassing as yeah, it can be fun and it can be light, even though it is heavy and dark at times and painful. But
yeah.
yeah, no bypassing for sure. Yeah, I love that you pick up on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And
Hmm.
I know we're gonna dig in a lot to like your journey and how you got here, but I guess while we're on the topic, just you mentioned sharing as just like a vessel and
Yeah.
channeling those spiritual messages and sharing them with the world. And how was that unfolding for you? Did you struggle putting yourself out there initially or caring about what people think?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because it wasn't necessarily a conscious caring about what people think,
Mm.
but there was definitely, I mean, it's been years of this sort of unfolding and unwinding of, or detaching, I guess, from the fear of rejection or abandonment, was really at the root of unlocking my voice and sharing. And it's so crazy because I would have clients and I'd be working with these brilliant people who have these incredible stories and so much wisdom to share. And I'd say, you don't understand. You're a puzzle piece in an infinite puzzle. And we are brainwashed into thinking that we don't matter, that we're just a tiny little piece, but your piece is so important. And yes, it's a cacophony of noise and all sorts of things out there, but like you matter and you expressing yourself is going to either contribute to the evolution and the expansion that we want to see in the world, or maybe it feeds more of like the entropy and the de-evolving that maybe doesn't feel as good, or maybe we don't want to see as much, right? And so it was like I was telling people this, and all the time it was kind of a pattern in my own world too. I would literally work myself up into like a full-on trauma response sometimes, just trying to talk about like really benign things like
Yeah.
health. Yeah, like
No.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm talking about like hydration and fluoride in the water and all these sort of things. And it's like it was really hard for me to just share my voice. And again, yeah, really indicative of my own experiences and what shaped me and how I use my voice. And it's really wild. Like 5 or 6 years ago, I couldn't complete a sentence without saying I don't know at the end. And now I have a podcast and I can't shut the hell up, honestly. Like it's just there's a lot to say. So
I know.
yeah, it's really crazy the evolution of how that's yeah come to be. It's possible, I guess, is really important, is the important thing to share. Yeah.
Yes, and just sharing, I've been thinking a lot about how we have this tendency just as like bystanders in the world to kind of judge people in their beginning efforts and how
Mm.
that's such a deal breaker for me when people do that because I'm like, you know what? Everyone sucks when they start. You have to give people the credit for trying and let them evolve into being good at something.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. We are what we judge. Like we attract what we judge, and usually it's the people who have something to say but they aren't starting, or have a desire that they aren't initiating, or and that then brings more compassion because we're all just mirrors for one another. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, it fuels the expansion because even triggers kind of wake something up in someone and help
Absolutely. Yeah.
recognize, like, if they're willing to get curious about them, which is
Yeah.
not always easy, but and then you spoke about the podcast and this sort of, I don't know, it's wild how you listen to yourself back and you realize like how often you say things like, well, I think, or
A
honestly,
tick.
yeah,
Yeah.
these little things where you sound so uncertain. It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to say I think. Like I feel like we're so conditioned to walk on eggshells sharing our opinions and especially
Yeah.
in today's day and age, it's like very outragey a lot
Well,
for
and it's like a spiritual
fluoride.
boot camp. Yeah, like to put yourself out there is like the ultimate shadow work. Oh, it's so funny because there's like a really big hubbub in the spiritual community right now on Instagram. There was a podcast that was released, like I think maybe just yesterday, about someone with a lot of big platform and a lot of wealth and all those sorts of things, and a decision they've made about their personal life, and everybody's got a thing, an opinion about it or whatever. But it's like we're all kind of just revealing our own shadows. And it's so interesting when you put yourself out there, like the perception thing, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like to be perceived, and to allow yourself that it's spiritual work, it's soul work. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
entrepreneurship and the needing to be seen and putting yourself out there. That's a
Hmm.
rapid boot camp is a great way to say it.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, this is intense. I
Fire
realize
hose.
half of my friends don't like me, or you know, like, oh,
Yeah.
so much.
Well,
But
so much revealing. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Exactly. So, well, speaking of revealing, I want to talk a little bit. I know like a big part of your work is talking about this awakening process, the unfolding, really stepping into our soul's purpose and just the spiritual essence of who we are and like living, exploring that. And so I want to talk to you about your own like awakening process, and what that looked like, your own unfolding in the early stages to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I know, so for a lot of people, there's like a psychedelic trip or an ayahuasca journey, or there's a big trauma, or like they read a book, or there's a guru and they come in contact with a person and it's like they are totally just a light switch flips, a lightning bolt happens, and it's like everything's different. And then they've got to like regroup and it's got to be, and that is a beautiful sort of process, but I can't say that that occurred for me ever. Like I'm not sure I'm not sure if everybody awakens with a lightning bolt. Like I don't think I ever fully fell asleep. Like I think I rocked up on the scene kind of like ready to go.
Mm.
And so for me, like this spirituality conversation, this awakening, it really felt more like this, like an unbearable heaviness, like this weight that I carried alone for a really long time since I was a kid. Like I was really always like asking a lot of questions, questions that like didn't sit well with the people that were raising me because they threatened the power dynamics and the structures that I was raised within. And this like inexplicable like empathy or like picking up on things, like all of that was there. And I know a lot of people talk about that kind of stuff, but there was never like a point where I went fully asleep, I don't think, and then woke up again. It was like this like pain of carrying that and having to dim it and quiet it and see everything and yet still not say. And so that it was almost like learning to manage the voltage. And so I've just been like slowly cranking it up more and more and more, like because of the chronic symptom awakening, which was like the pain that I was experiencing in my physical body. Like that was like the way, my avatar, my vehicle wanted to convey a misalignment with what I knew to be true. And that's what I mean. Like I don't have this like moment of like, oh, it was a toxic marriage. I mean, I have one of those in my past. Like I've got a lot of big traumas and things like that that happened, but I can't say that any of them were the catalyst to being like, boom, now you're awake and life is different. Like they happened, and every time I was like, this is part of the plan. Like I knew that it was like part of what was meant to be happening. Does that make sense? Like in terms,
Yeah,
because like
it's
like
actually
yeah.
really resonating with me. And I just had an internal light bulb moment of like, oh my God, I feel like it wasn't that I stopped drinking that catalyzed my spiritual awakening. I was putting myself back to sleep with alcohol. It just was,
Yes. Yes.
it was just the awareness returning. Because even
Yes.
when I was, even before I really like self-medicated a lot with alcohol. I mean, there's definitely trauma and stuff like that, but I was very similar, like always super curious, always
Yeah.
kind of on the edge of like I was well liked, but then I did feel different often. And I think, the high sensitivity piece as well, just like is kind of a component of a
Yeah.
more aware soul in a way. And so like all of those factors, I feel I've never thought of it from that vantage point of like maybe I was just using alcohol to put myself back to sleep
Yeah.
instead of like procrastinate my awakening.
Right. I mean, and this is like something I think because like you've got a baby, you've seen it. Like they kind of arrive with everything. And then we like either like depending on the situation, like we foster the magic and all of the beauty that they inherently possess, or we sort of like give them the tools to outsource it and not trust themselves and that guidance and that connection to the thing beyond, like the source energy that is our birthright that we all have access to. And so, yeah, like I still have serious memories of being a kid and still feeling that connection so deeply to the point where it was like, pick your poison, right? Like maybe it was drinking, maybe it was, gosh, like we numb out with so many different things because, I mean, like if we knew how powerful we were, like the world would look really different. I think, like these systems and these structures that are collapsing right now, like that is happening because so many of us are remembering our own divinity, and that power that we inherently like have and the ability to co-create and sort of like build things in this physical world. And that's the whole point of being here is the blood and the guts and the sweat and all of that stuff. And so yeah, like there's this whole conversation about, this realm in general. Like we've also got to know, like how can we learn love and how can we really truly know what love is if we don't experience the opposite or experience things that pull us into the darkness? Like how can we really know the light if we've never spent time in the darkness? And so all of it serves, you know what I mean? It wasn't like the bad, like, or anything like that. But I look at so much as of what's unfolded in my life as such a gift, as hard and as painful and as wrong. I'm not going to condone a lot of the stuff that like has happened or happens out in the world, right, on a meta level. But like we were mentioning earlier, the triggers, like they're the gifts. Our feelings are the barometer that help us navigate. And yeah, so it was like, I'm sure you can relate to, or anyone who's like addicted to anything, whether it's working out, like that's a numbing, right? Like we can have healthy addictions and stuff like that too, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to feel this feeling, so I'm going to go run 15 miles on the treadmill. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, really interesting sort of,
Yeah.
yeah, way to think
Yeah.
about it, I guess.
It totally is. It's the even sort of like performative spirituality, whereas like you're not really digging in, but and there's
Yeah.
so many ways to kind of be or be bypassing sitting
Yeah.
with yourself, even in the things that we think are intended to be helping us sit with ourselves. There's still like so many faces or masks of the ego, I would say.
Yeah. Or even unconscious like manipulation and that sort of thing. It's like, okay, I've been thinking about this a lot. It like lately, just because I heard someone kind of bribing their kid to get them to do something. And I just was like, I don't have kids, so I can't, I'm not gonna like proclaim to know. But I was a teacher. I spent a lot of time with kids and I was a child. So I like remember the control and manipulation tactics and feeling betrayal, knowing that that was part of what was going on, but also it's tricky because I want to like if we really think about it, aren't we then sort of like perpetuating the control and manipulation that like the kids will then experience out in adulthood, out in the world, right? Like if
Yeah,
we are bribing, controlling, manipulating them to brush their teeth or eat the veggies or whatever it is, it's like okay, you could call it motivation in some ways because it's benefiting them, but also it's manipulation on some level if it's not a necessary thing, like if it's a safety thing or whatever.
yeah,
And then, so then when they go out in the world and these corporations or the government or some authority or something outside of themselves tries to manipulate or control them, like maybe they won't recognize it because the people they trusted or they were, like raised with, like that was the norm. So
yeah,
again, unconscious stuff. And that's, I think, part of why we see, like in the spiritual community, especially like, and I can only just speak as a woman, but I know I've encountered lots of men who like learn a lot of spiritual lingo and then they can use that as like a way to manipulate you and get what they want. Again, probably unconscious. It's just acting from desire or a bypass of their own, their own shadow
yeah,
or things like that. It's like no judgment, but we all have to get better at discerning and knowing what is for us and what feels right and good and trusting ourselves, I think, to make the right decisions and create life, yeah, for
yeah.
ourselves. Yeah.
And being able to hold space for like the truth, because I think it's so crazy. Even just listening to you talk about like parenting and bribing, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine how many people would be like losing their mind on social media, like listening to like how bribing is setting your kids up to be manipulated and
I'm
like,
gonna make a video about it later today. You've
yeah,
convinced me. I'm
seriously,
gonna do it
people
now.
are literally gonna be like, what? But it's like it's like common sense logically, like it's just
The
true.
truth always is.
It's like it's just kind of true. And so, but it's just hard because I think our society and programming has been so conditioned, and even the evolution of like current modern day programming with like I feel like there's a lot of entitlement to comfort, and it's
Yeah.
like no one is willing to like sit with like hard conversations or like differing life experiences, and like my life experience is equally as valid and my perspectives even if they're different than yours, or being able to like sit with the truth, I think is just such a something also that we like do to distract ourselves is like not really wanting to and like feeding into programming that
Yeah.
kind of pushes us towards like disempowerment and this I don't know, culture of like immediate gratifications and kind of easy outs and stuff.
Yeah, it's obsession really too, like this instant gratification or yeah, like the ease and the flow or like giving up like skills for convenience. Like we lose things every time we like make our lives easier or quicker, like ordering groceries and things like that. Like we don't even realize that like where the food is coming from an animal. The kids don't even know that like pork is a pig half the time, right? Like there's a lot there. Um, but also it's, yeah, I think it all serves in some way too. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I think also it like we just don't know what's on the other side of the truth. And that's the hardest part. It's like I'd love part of my message. If one person takes this away, it's like sitting in the truth. It really does set you free. Like that, it really does. Like it transforms me. Truth always, I heard there's a priest or like an ex-priest I love so much. His name is Sean O'Leary, Father Sean O'Leary, and he talks about his definition of truth being if it transforms him and aligns him with love, then that is what he will like equate to truth. And because it's like, okay, that you can just ask yourself that question, like, okay, does this transform me and like align me with love, like actual love? Like, what does love really mean? This conversation about like, we've been kind of brainwashed to believe love is something that it actually is not, like
Yeah.
Disney fairy tales and things like that. But like if we really understood truth and its purpose and what love really is, we would feel the freedom. A lot of responsibility obviously comes with that freedom, but yeah, like it's a very different experience. Like the physical reality that we exist within is very different when we take responsibility and claim that freedom for ourselves. But we've got to look in that harsh mirror of truth sometimes first. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny even with the like motherhood example, I'm like really thinking about that too because for my own motherhood journey, I was like I don't want to be rushing around all of the time. Like I don't want to have a full-time job. And this is again no judgment, everyone's different. But for me,
Totally.
version of motherhood, I was just like I feel like the reason we do spend so much time bribing our kids and we do spend so much time like providing them distractions and this and that is because we're all subscribing to the programming of what our life should look like. That's honestly really stressful, high-paced, and overstuffed with things to do, things to have. And I just think that it's almost like you don't have any other choice but to parent with a sense of urgency if you're actually
Mm,
subscribing to our programming around what life should look like as a parent. And
right.
we're just like, fuck that. I don't want to work full time to at my coaching job to barely pay for daycare, to then have my business as a side hustle that I still
Right.
want to do. Like, why am I trying to? I want to make motherhood my own version, and I want it to be like an ecosystem that fuels each other, like the
Oh,
tent and the garden and my like way that I'm structuring my coaching. And I think more people like if they recognize that, looking at some of that, even that, right? Circling back to love, it's like
yeah.
you look at that and being like, I don't want to live at a pace where I have to bribe my kids because I'm always like kind of
Right.
pressed for time or crunched for time. Like, I want to live at a pace where like I can have a conversation. And sometimes I tell him, like, no, we're not having a conversation. Like, this is it.
Right.
In there,
Or
whatever, you
give them choices, right? Like here are
know?
your choices, right? Like some agency in the whole process. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
It's like I
Yeah.
think it's like when you do decide to lean into what's actually best for your soul, it often like has a reverberation of love in like the the residue that comes from it. And so that is what I find is like with in the convenience thing, it's just like we're operating in these spaces that if we really looked, slowed down and asked, what serves me best, it's like, well, that is a return to love because you are slowing, you're engaging, you're recognizing that some of the things that we view as convenience is actually not coming from a place of love for ourselves or anyone else.
Right. Right. Yeah. And slowing down enough just to even get curious about that can be tricky when you're really when we're attached to those egos, desires, and the things that we're telling ourselves that we need, or it's really just the conditioning and the programming that says you've got to be this way and you've got to have this much. And if you don't do this, it's like the same reason that, McDonald's has become a thing. I talk about this all the time, but it's like, do you think two moms would have like come up with the idea for McDonald's? Like two moms in their power, like
Yeah.
really in their like healthy mama bear energy. They no, like
Yeah.
that, like
Is there
especially
love
not
for self and others? They're
like
like,
that
that's an
wouldn't
idea.
Like, no, that was like some wounded men that were like, let's how do we make some money? You know what I mean? Which is great and like good for them. That's fine. But like even the clown thing, it's like they know the food is trash. They know it's all like they're gonna be the bad mom if they don't take their kid to McDonald's, if they don't get to go play in the play place. So they've got to take the kid to McDonald's. You know, you can put any soccer practice or whatever, you got to keep it up with everybody else, or you're the bad mom, right? And like, is that really loving though, right? Like, yeah, your kid fits in with the system and all these things, but it's like, is that really love? Like, what is love? What does love really mean? Yeah,
Right. Your kid fits into a system that benefits from them being fully disconnected from themselves and they're full of
totally.
compassion
Yeah. And
and
really,
soul.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like this, yeah, constant return to soul. And it's just getting back to your like original question about spiritual waking and stuff. It's like, I only remember having frustrations with the 3D world as a kid. And I think that that's a common thing for a lot of us, but we shut it down and we don't even remember it because half of us were like totally disassociated as kids. We don't even have memories of childhood because it was so traumatizing. At least that's my case, you know? But it's like there's I just remember feeling confused constantly. Like I would have to go sit in church and I'd be pissed. I'd be like, they're playing the organ wrong. They're playing that instrument. That is not, it's supposed to sound good. This sounds awful. Like it's hurting my ears. What's going on? And then once I got to look at the organ, I'm watching this woman play with her fingers. There's all these buttons. They're playing with their feet. And I'm like, you mean to tell me this technology has been around since the bubonic plague or whatever, like a long time ago. And they had this technology and they had these crazy locks and like all this cool stuff. They're building these beautiful churches, but they're also like shitting in the street and they can't even figure out like public sanitation. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like I just remember even as a kid being like, this doesn't add
And
up.
you're right, that doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. Like something, we're missing something here. Chamber pots. That's another thing. I'm going to make a video about that later too, because it's really been on my mind later. Like, you mean to tell me everyone just woke up, they like pooped in a bowl and they put it under their bed and they went back to sleep at night? Like this, I just
You're like, you are clowning us with this shit. No pun
like,
intended. Like,
isn't that, do I sound nuts though? Because like, I remember as a
no.
kid being like, no, they didn't. Like,
No, I feel
no.
like that as an adult all the time. Just even throughout like the pandemic, I won't get into that, but just little
Yeah.
things where you're like, does anyone feel like this doesn't make sense?
Yes.
Anybody else feel like this doesn't make sense? Like
I
this,
even remember, do you
like
remember like colored ketchup? Do you remember when they came out with like purple and green ketchup?
no, but that's
Okay.
disgusting.
It was like it traumatized me. I remember being like, this is not natural. Like, why is this purple? Like, I'm so freaked out. It's doing weird things to my brain, which it is kind of what we're talking about. It's like, but everybody else is laughing and like the kids on the package are smiling. And so, like, why do I feel the way that they feel? And so we just get so confusing. And the internal structure then of our mind, what I think is like, it just becomes so loud, we can no longer see the patterns at play. Like, that make up reality. Like, it's literally all math. And I think that it is a lot of it. You know, there's this whole conversation about free will and destiny and all this kind of stuff. But like if we understood the patterns, it probably wouldn't feel the way that it might feel when there's a lot of suffering or things like that going on. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, speaking of patterns, I know this is a big part of what you do, and you were talking earlier, I think it was before we hopped on the call about your previous work with the government, and you said Intel Analytics.
Yeah, I was an intel analyst. Yeah,
Okay.
for a little while.
Well, first of all, I need to know more about what this is. And you were
Okay.
also like, I'm gonna pair this question because I have like a million for you, and I feel like I could talk to you for like 10 hours, and I
Yeah,
know.
no way.
But the paired with that, like telling me more about Intel Analytics, I also want to know, you said earlier about how the systems are collapsing right now. And I think that weaves in a lot to like, the government and just politics, healthcare, like all of these systems that are kind of becoming antiquated as like people evolve and whatnot and just like not really serving us anymore. And so tell us,
Yeah.
like, as someone who worked in the government and your position there, like, what are your thoughts on the systems, like, sort of collapsing and what you think is causing them? That awakening and more people. I'd love to know more about that whole paragraph question.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Which way should we go first? Because this is definitely a 10-hour minimum conversation now. Yes. It's a lot. Okay. So I was a contractor for the government for a while, a little while after college. And I got to see some really cool stuff, and I got to work on some really interesting projects. I came on the scene like at this sweet spot, like a decade after all the 9/11 funding had hit the Intel community. And so there was like a lot of things like really off and running. And there was this new discipline that was called activity-based intelligence. And my mentor was the guy who like wrote the book on it. And really, really remarkably smart, brilliant people like that I encountered in this world. And I really get to see like inside the belly of the beast, these systems, right? And I think that for me, it was really disenchanting because I was young. I was a geography major in college and I just like reared onto the scene, like ready to go. Um, I did geography and like geographic information systems. So I was coding, I was making maps, I was really nerdy about it. And I think like I expected something very different than what I entered into, which is kind of, I feel like the way life is sometimes. Like I feel like we're like we grow up and then we get into the real world and we're like, oh my God, wait, nobody knows what's going on here. Like
Yeah.
literally everyone is winging it. Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Like, and so that was like a big like crumble moment for me. I was just like disenchanted and very disappointed on a lot of levels, but also very curious. And that wasn't super welcome in that environment, like asking a lot of questions. I remember getting pulled aside a lot and being like, you're not going to last here. You know what I mean? Like, because you're asking questions.
So
And
how
it was in a
terrified
good
do you feel
way.
that?
Yeah, like it was a really good way, like that, you know what I mean? Because I was doing fine in that environment. But yeah, like there's just a certain type of way to fit into that system, right? Like you don't want to rock the boat too much sometimes. But anyway, I got very sick, sort of like because my questions were not getting answered, and I was trying to fit into these other roles in other areas of my life that just were not in alignment with what my soul was like really trying to express. Um, and yeah, I was holding a lot of it inside, like a lot of the questions that I had, like all that stuff I talked about, right? Like ever since I was a kid, being like, this doesn't feel right. Like this just doesn't feel right. Like I knew my body was the barometer, but I still couldn't like get there. And then in terms of like the patterns, I think what it made me realize was like, well, I was just doing a lot, I was processing a lot of big data, and I got very in touch with like those methodologies and thinking about the world in terms of patterns of life. We always use like the white Ford Bronco, like the O.J. Simpson chase as like the example, right? Like how do we track the white Ford Bronco in the sea of the chaos? How do we allow the patterns to emerge even though you've smashed a ton of different data sources and different types of data together, right? Like data from different collections and sources and things like that. And yeah, so I think, and it's only just recently occurred to me that that's kind of what we're doing in life is like the more we peel back the layers, the more we get in touch with our own true nature. Because the same thing happens in nature. Like you are nature, and nature doesn't ever experience like confusion the way that we humans do. Humans, like we're the one thing that is separate from, we're the conduits, right, between the sun and the earth. Like the electric energy of the sun, the magnetic energy of the earth. Like we have the power to influence our consciousness. We have free will. We can get up and move, right? We're not like a tree planted in one place when the river gets poisoned and we die because we can't like move to the other side of the forest, right? Like, but humans can, we can influence things, and we have imagination, which is very different from like, I think any other animal. I don't think, do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
animals, do they daydream and stuff? Like, and to me, that is really just like we're talking about sensitivity is like it's the ability to perceive other dimensions or other timelines, and they're so close that we can imagine them. Like we could reach through the ether and like pull it into physical reality. That's how close they are. But there are others there, it's infinite, right? And they're so far out that we can't even perceive them with our mind because our brain is very, very powerful, but also not very helpful sometimes because it only can conjure things that we've known or seen or experienced, right? So it's like going to keep us in those familiar patterns and loops, and things it knows. Um, but I love paradox and I love getting uncomfortable in my body and feeling that cognitive dissonance, which is really what I was feeling a lot of when I had that job was cognitive dissonance. Like, hey, I don't understand why this money is being spent this way, or, you know, what the purpose of like this choice that we've made is and that kind of thing. It was very confusing for me. And there was a lot of pressure and a lot of rules, and I don't always, yeah, play by rules very well. Like, because I want to be free, like our soul wants to be free, you know?
Yeah.
And I've always been a bit of a hippie, like in terms of like just wanting everyone to have a good time and like love. Like it's always been about love to me and like everybody just feeling included and I think that's part of what we're returning to. So these systems and the structures that are collapsing, the part of the pattern that we're seeing now, right, is we're returning to this like unity, the source that we all came from. So there is the one, right? Like a source of everything, all that is God. Some people call it that, creator, whatever, that splits off, right? Into and fragments into lots and lots of infinite pieces. And sometimes it looks like an Erin Gunzelman sitting on a podcast talking to Katie Campbell, right? Like, and sometimes, it looks like whoever's listening to this, because like an eye wouldn't know what an eye looked like unless there was a mirror. So we just get to come here and play and like experience ourselves and see into the mirror. And ultimately, I think the lesson that we're meant to learn is to love and to give and receive love unconditionally in this process. And in order to do that, we're going to have to experience the duality of what love is not. At least that's where we're at in this point in human consciousness. I don't think it will always be that way, but who's to say? I mean, we get to choose really like what we go to. But I think these when you start talking about things like, planetary frequency and evolving and all that stuff, it can kind of get a little new agey. Like it gets a little unwieldy sometimes because it's fluffy, right? Spiritually kind of fluffy, but then you feel it in your bones. Like then there's a solar flare and you're knocked sideways crying for 2 days or whatever. And you're like, like we don't totally understand it, but none of us can deny that something is shifting, something is changing really big on the planet, right? And you can talk about like I used like the bifurcation of humanity a lot, like this split that's occurring. And we see it, with all these different like agendas and things like that. And I heard someone recently use the word speciation event, and I really like that. So I'm going to dig in a little bit more there.
Mhm.
Google it, like if you're curious too. But yeah, like there's this sudden like awakening, I think. Like there's so many of us who are just immediately like collectively like we want more. There's got
Yeah.
to be more. There's got to be more. There's this purpose doesn't work for me like you're saying. Like why would I kill myself to make a bunch of money to send my kids so someone else can essentially raise them and plant a bunch of ideas or seeds in their mind, right? Like
It's like that's not the energy, the frequency I want to be living my life at. I don't want to be
right.
rushing through my life because this
Yeah.
is what I'm told is like the normal thing to do.
Yes.
And I think the more that people like share their questions out loud, the more that other people are like,
Yes.
yeah, what the hell? Even you talking about the shit pot under the bed, I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Like little things, like where it's just like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And when people are unafraid to express their curiosity and to express their questions, I think it reveals like how many we all have about what we've agreed upon is the appropriate reality that we should all be like operating under. And
Yes.
you said like a lot about patterns, and it's really interesting. Even when you said, okay, we're the only animals or like that we know of like that have imagination, creativity, and that's a pattern where it's like, why aren't more, doesn't it seem like we should be using it then? If we're the only ones that have it, like that's an answer is in the patterns of that we see in our lives. And so much of our shadow work is like reoccurring themes, whether it's like
Mm,
habits and relationship dynamics that we continuously find ourselves in. It's like
yes.
when you really dig into the patterns of your individual life, the relationships in your life, the larger scale of the world, you do see like, okay, if I actually get curious about these themes, that's like the key to my evolution. And do you think that spiritual awakening kind of on a cosmic level is like a pattern that happens like in cycles? Because you know how there's the like
The
the
yugas.
the ages and getting back
Yeah.
to the golden age and
Yeah.
even like the golden belt with the planets and
Yeah.
stuff. So what
Yeah.
do you think? Do you think like awakenings are happening beyond our control?
Yeah, this is kind of like what I alluded to a little bit with that conversation about like free will and destiny and like what does this even all mean? And um yeah, like I do. I think that that is the only thing that makes sense. Like I used to be someone who thought astrology was bullshit. I literally would be like, oh, really? Like the moon made you do that? I'm sure. Okay. Like, and that was because of my programming and also the fear that was pumped into me, especially from like a religious perspective. Like there was a lot of like dogma that like was in my mind, but still deep down in my heart I was really curious about it and I really wanted to know about it. And so I was like shunning it and poo-pooing it, but also reading my horoscope like at really young. It's stupid. But I bring that up just to say that, like, once I figured out, being the analyst, right, that like Venus makes this like beautiful pattern in the sky. If you track Venus or like all the planets, right, like in the sky and their movements, it's like that's some sacred geometry. And I know that there's math associated with that. And now we're cooking with fire because, like, I really like the math and the science behind all of this. And so these, like you're describing, like, there's always like a pattern with relationship dynamics. There's an energetic underneath all of that. And these archetypes, I think they do. Like you could talk about it from a Jungian perspective, like, like those symbols and the archetypes in our dreams and things like that, and like how they match up, then it's all the same thing to me. Like to me, it's just the same. Like it's all the same.
It's
It just
different
looks
for,
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
different
like,
people kind of sharing their like an interpretation of the same
exactly.
process of like individuation and
Yes.
our
And like every religion has it, like every culture has it, like the yugas, like each age. And so even solar cycles, like we can track like the sun's solar cycles. Like I think we're in solar cycles 25, which is why the sun is wilding out so much, I think, right now. Or that's what they say. Yeah, don't quote me on that. But like, yeah, I think everything is a cycle and a pattern. Nature runs in cycles. Every turtle in the world has 28 little, what are those shapes on their back called? Like we built calendars based off that stuff. And then somewhere, kind of like you're alluding to, it's like we have to ask ourselves, like, this feels like there's something nefarious going on here because we're so far removed from the harmony and the balance that is in the blueprint that is nature that we came here to be a part of and exist within, not above or below or outside of it or anything like that. It's like there are seasons, there are sun cycles, planet cycles, all these types of things. And now math, numbers, like a lot of it, we just see it as information. It's like steps on our Fitbit or like numbers on our bank account or something like that. But numbers used to have real magic. They used to be like the rod between the metaphysical, between the etheric and the physical world. They used to anchor us. And like I think other cycles, other civilizations, other epochs in human or civilizations, like they knew that and they were sort of operating from a way of pulling that information down into the physical to embody it. And that's really what we're seeing is like this push, like we want to embody our divinity. Like that's what Jesus was talking about, in my opinion. Like, how do we be 100% human and the messy, sloppy, gross, like poop and blood and all that, but then also 100% divine? Like, can we honor both in this experience? And the joy and the happiness that comes, like eating food, like that's so freaking cool. Like, we eat food and it becomes our body. Like, what the fuck? That's insane. That's so cool. Like, Okay, cool. But you know what I mean? But there's like, again, all of that divinity
Yeah.
we get removed from. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I definitely think I don't really pay attention to like a lot of that stuff because I feel like it clouds a little bit of my, I think a lot of people would be surprised like how little I actually read and like look into all that kind of stuff because it really like my own barometer is where I'm at these days. I'm like, I just feel it in my body. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, yeah, that feels like expansive. Like that makes me kind of like open up a little bit. Or does it kind of make me,
Yeah.
is there a contraction, you know? Like,
And I think even that is like an evolution of its own, where it's like ultimately the goal is to like source ourselves with the discernment and like
yes,
that ability to connect to our intuition and to our bodies and what like safety feels like, what a yes feels like, where we're
yes,
being guided. And
yeah.
yeah, I think for me too, there's definitely been like a information gathering and like measuring about like I've read, so I went through a spell of like reading just like only near death experience books. I'm like, okay, I need to give this a break.
Are
Like,
you kidding? I used to watch videos and weep. I used to watch them on repeat on YouTube. Yes.
it's
I
like
think,
just because you're like,
yes.
this makes
Yeah.
sense, but this doesn't make sense. I think this like I'm like I believe
Yeah.
like all the Jesus, Buddha, all the people existed, love God. But I'm like the religion piece, I don't know, but I do feel like I just feel like that's, there's elements of like control and manipulation in that as well. And so for me, it's just really stepping back and like getting curious and then
Yes.
deciding for myself, like, I'm like, yeah, reincarnation for sure. Been here, done this, but definitely been some other places, I think.
That's
Um,
so funny you say that because I don't know how I feel about reincarnation anymore. Like
you really?
yeah, like now, like I think I have this feeling that like everything we think about like the spiritual ascension process, like I think it's all going to get flipped on its head the same way we're seeing like a lot of
Really?
stuff out there.
Oh, that's
Like
exciting.
right. It's a little bit, and it's a little like white knuckle about it too. It's also like, wait a minute, I just kind of got a handle on what we're doing here. Like, are you
Yeah,
gonna flip the game? Like,
I
but I
know.
think that's kind of why we're here, like, to learn and experience and like, yeah, to be surprised, like to be in awe of the experience. But like you're saying, it's like, what is the truth? Like, there is an ultimate truth. Like there is ultimate truth, but I don't think we have access to it. That's not the point of being here.
It's like
Like
the
I,
exploration process is the point. Like the
yeah,
duality is
right.
the point. And even in Journey of the Souls or something like that, he talks about like, evil has to exist here because that's the whole point for us to like be able to choose. Like, I want to choose light, I want to choose growth. And you did say, and I know we don't have a ton of time left, but you did say like it kind of begs the question of like whether something nefarious is going on. I'm like, what do you think? Do you think it is? Like, definitely, or do you just think they evolved that way because of humans and that culture you mentioned? Like, don't ask questions, just do what you're told. My husband's always like, I fucking hate when people say, I'm just doing my job. It's like, but what,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
you're like doing your job, but it's like, what if that doesn't, it's like, but what about your integrity? Or what about, like, and
I love
so
that. Yeah.
yeah, so I was wondering, what do you think? Do you think, especially after your experience in that position, realizing like a lot of people just kind of like stay quiet and move along and don't ask questions, so maybe they evolved in that way without
Yeah.
nefarious intent, but what do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much because and I love that this is like, we get to love, like, end this like conversation on love because it's like my thing that I just really, I ask this question a lot, like, especially, you brought up COVID things. You could talk about the government, you could talk about law enforcement. There's so many examples of this, right? Like, do we really think that every doctor is witting and has gone into this profession and is like
No.
aware and they're not? Yeah, exactly. Like, no, I know these people. The people I worked with are incredible people, brilliant people, like doing amazing work. There is room for all of it to exist in my mind. And the way I see it now, we could talk about the billionaires of the world, all of these different like players people will never even know about, right? Like the shadow people and um, these rich and powerful families or whatever. Like, what if, what if they're on like a divine assignment? to not evolve, to remain in their ego and to go down that path because that's what it is going to take to awaken humanity to its greatest power or to catalyze things into what we know is possible in terms of what this realm could look like the physical world. And that really puts a different spin on things, in my opinion, right? Because you might look at like a Hitler and say, gosh, on a soul level, maybe he really loved us. Like again, I think there's like a little piece of a belief because everything like I used to think. I'm constantly questioning this, so I just want to like preface that with this. Like
No,
it's
but
a
I'm
constant.
I'm right there with you. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe these people, and that's like
Yeah.
sometimes we have a lot of chats like this, but we've talked about like the elite at the top. Like a lot of people don't care and they don't want to ask questions. So like, can you really blame them for creating like
Yeah. And
these
honestly,
people?
it doesn't really matter to me because I am already free. Like
Yeah,
like how you choose to channel your consciousness is your choice. And worrying, fearing, being angry, a lot of those things are a necessary part of the process and they're valid, but it's also like what we put out is what we're going to get back in the mirror of reality. So, like, war with war has never really equaled peace. Look at the world. Do you know what I mean? So, like, we have to get very honest. Like, we were talking about full circle here, the truth in the beginning, like, sit in that fire and really ask ourselves, like, am I perpetuating these systems that I'm claiming that I want to exit? Am I perpetuating something that doesn't actually like serve my highest good and it's like giving to something that I didn't know existed, right? And then, so I mean, there's this whole other conversation too, because it's like, imagine you're a doctor, you've gone to med school, you've like dedicated your life to saving and helping other people, and then you find out that a choice you made or something you consented to caused harm. Like, holy moly, like that is really like gonna shatter. Because, and I know what that's like to have your entire worldview shattered. Like the house burning down moment. You're like, I've got nothing left now, right? So
right.
holding space for compassion and empathy for one another, the same way we would for a child, for ourselves, I think that's really like the only answer because nobody knows. Like nobody knows the ultimate truth. Like we're all here with our shadows, pointing each other's shit out, shining lights on stuff, like laughing, hurting each other. Like it's all part of the game to me. And it's a really wild ride. Yeah. Learning how to give and receive love. Like when someone reveals their shadows, like, can you love that? Like, and what does that really look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it is. I love that take on it. And I think one thing for me that I keep returning to with this sort of like awakening process is like humility.
Oh,
I feel like, and you were just reminding me of it with it, because, at first when you start putting patterns together, you're like, oh my God, you idiots, that whole like feeling.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I've definitely experienced that. And then it is just like the more you grow and learn, it really is just like, well, I feel like the more I learn, the more open I am to like a multitude of perspectives and possibilities,
Yeah.
as opposed to just thinking like, oh, well, this is obvious, like duh. And I
Yeah.
think that has been a big element for me, like moving forward, is just sharing your message, but doing so humbly because, like, as you learn, you really do realize, how, like, nothing anyone says could really take me too far off of my, uh,
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you know where you are. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just being like, oh, that's cool. Like any opinion, someone has or shares, it's like unless it's directly harmful or something, I'm like, hey, like I could see that perspective.
Right.
The more curious I remain, the more open I stay, and I love that. And
And
so
they're entitled to that. Yeah. Like we're all like everybody's truth is valid to me. Like
yeah.
there's no, it's like, you know what? Some people's truth is that they want to like, yeah, like eat the things, do the stuff, and that is fine. Like, yeah, like the more we reveal ourselves to one another, I think like yeah, like how it's a fun challenge for me. It's like how do I dig deep enough to like find the love in this? Because I think all of it is like an invitation for love on some level. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Before we end things here, I'm trying to think of I'm like, which is the best question? Last question. Um, okay, I think this is a good one. I really wanted to talk with you more about your thoughts on embracing the metaphysical as part of our health and wellness, but I feel like that's a whole nother um, episode, or maybe it can be woven into the answer of this question. But if we were to fully embrace the metaphysical nature of reality, and everything we're talking about, the spiritual awakening, evolution, deeper truths, and inner knowing, what might the future of humanity look like from the way
Mhm.
we relate to each other, how we live, and how we heal? So that's and I got squeezed in there.
Okay, yeah. You know, it's so interesting. Okay, so embracing metaphysical nature, like it is our nature.
Mhm.
Like, I don't think we have to embrace it. It is the nature of our reality. Like, whether we embrace it or not, like, we live in a thought universe. And so, our thoughts, our beliefs, our attachments, they are going to be what creates our reality. So, we get to choose whatever this is, whether it's a heaven or a hell. And that happens every day. Like, you can have two people standing next to each other in the exact same scenario, and one might be experiencing a completely different situation than the person standing right next to them. I mean, you can see it walking down the street. Again, this like bifurcation of humanity. It's like we all get to choose our experience here and how we orient ourselves. And to me, there's really just two options. Like it's either you're in the everything's a miracle and there are no accidents, or it's all random chaos and there's nothing, right? There are no patterns, there's nothing, right? Like you can't straddle. Like either it's all coincidence, it's all miracle, it's all what or not, because coincidence to me doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. But it's like it's either
Synchronicity.
right, like it's either synchronicities and that sort of thing. Or it's the opposite. And so I think, yeah, like I'm not even trying to recruit anyone or change anybody's mind anymore. Like I'm just like vibing or trying my best to vibe with what the reality, like the mirror of reality is revealing about me to me. And the more I do that, the more what I experience out in the world, like you're saying, like I feel pretty unfazed, like unshakable in a lot of ways because I know like this deeper truth so far in my cells and my bones, like this connection to God and this connection to source or divine energy, whatever you call it, whatever resonates, this creator energy, this thing that like beats my heart, that I don't have to tell it, that like grows the plants, that like the food, you know what I mean? Like all that amazing stuff that we just can't, the ineffable, right? Like I think if we really love ourselves and honor ourselves, like we'll all just like kind of shift into this more of a harmonious state, the way nature exists. You know, there's pain and there's discomfort, there's hard work in nature, but there's harmony and balance too. Um, and so, I think that does that answer your question? Because it kind of does weave in with like the health and the stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
what, like, yeah, like
It's exist
loving ourselves. Self-love is like, I think the catalyst.
the
Yeah.
root. It's funny, I
Yeah.
just posted about self-love today and just how we're constantly looking for like that one thing when in reality it's just our inner landscape that needs to be able to be cultivated in a way that the reality we want actually sticks and the consistency can stick and all that stuff. We just can't fix things externally if we're stuck in a space of like limiting beliefs or self-loathing and
Or just resisting what is. Like, I think that's part of it too. Like, I know I lived with decades of chronic pain, like vomiting, passing out, like losing weeks of my life laying on the floor. Like, I get it. I really get the suffering and how even that, like, is saying, oh, this is my fault. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely not the case. Like, but can we accept where we are and accept what we're experiencing? And also the fact, like, hold space for the fact that we are more wave than particle. Like, literally, like, we exist as a wave until we're observed. That's like the double slit experiment. Like, that is the most repeated experiment because nobody believes it because it's insane, right? To think that all of this is not actual physical matter. It feels so real, but
yeah.
it's not. It's really not. And yeah, so like this acceptance of the metaphysical, right? Like the more wave than particle kind of thing is like brings the agency back, right? Like with the kids, like bribing them. We don't have to bribe, control. We don't have to make deals with God. We just have to accept what is and trust that there's a blueprint, and aligning with that is going to create whatever it is our soul wanted to experience here in the physical realm, that is going to ultimately evolve our human family in whatever way creator wanted to experience
Yeah.
it, you know?
Right. And the more we can flow with it, like the greater our capacity to evolve and just kind of roll with it. And that
Yeah.
resistance plays such a role in like, the perpetuation of relationships like past their, expiration date or
Don't I know it?
also
Yeah.
like holding on to emotions that we need to process in order to like
Yeah.
heal. And so much disease is from like being in a state of physical resistance with like the reality we're in.
Yes.
So that makes
Yeah.
so much sense. Just surrendering and having faith as like two things. And that's been huge for me lately. And just it's really cool to see it reinforced. Like the more you surrender and then these random things and synchronicities, like you were saying, just kind of pop up out of nowhere and you're like, see, I don't need to be worrying.
Right. Yeah.
We're good.
And like, or accepting, like, wow, that fear felt really real. Like, I was really worried and scared, but here I am again. Like, it worked out. It didn't work out the way I thought it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. But can I look at this from another vantage and another perspective and see what a miracle or a gift it actually was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, really, really cool.
I love it.
Me
So
too.
before we share your information, I want you to share like all your podcasts and your Patreon and your offerings and where people can find
Yeah.
you. But if you had to just say like one piece of advice that you would give to someone in the early stages of like exploring their spirituality, exploring their worldview, exploring their belief systems, and kind of in the early stages of spiritual awakening, what would you say?
Yeah, these are always so interesting because I'm not like a tips and tricks kind of person. And
Yeah.
I guess that's maybe what I kind of want to say. Like I think what I'd say to someone who's just dipping their toe in or diving in, whatever you choose, like trust yourself. Like you can't mess it up. Like I think that's really what I would say. Like it might feel like everything is like crashing around you, but that's usually a really good sign in my experience.
Yeah.
And yeah, like because again, like Intel analysts, like we all have a certain amount of bandwidth, like we can only fit so much through the soda straw. So sometimes things have to get cleared out and it's not going to be what you expect all the time, right? When you start saying yes and not abandoning yourself and you love yourself, there's all sorts of emotions that come up in that, right? Grief or pain or anything that might be associated with actually not abandoning yourself for whatever you were getting, but what you receive on the other side of that is always worth it in my experience. And so trust yourself, right? Yeah, you can't mess it up if you're really staying true to your heart, um, and trusting yourself, because even the mistakes are going to lead you to exactly where you're meant to go in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a plan. Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah,
That's awesome. Such a good.
yeah.
And that, yeah, I think a good addition is like you don't need to focus on following people's tips and tricks, and you can
No, well, that's the whole point. Like,
tips and tricks.
yes, I can't remember if we said this while we were recording or not, but it's like there's an infinite puzzle that's ever expanding and evolving, and you are a piece of the puzzle, and it is so important for you to put your puzzle piece into the infinite puzzle. We
Yeah.
each hold a key in this process, and there's not one person that is discounted or small in that. Like we all play a role, and so yeah, like really trusting yourself and what your heart is asking you to do, because it's not going to make logical sense. It's not going to look like even the way you think it's going to look a lot of the time, like walking away from a job. It might even mean like walking away from things that are good or working, right? And that's when it gets really like, how committed are you to where God wants you to go, or your soul or higher self or whatever you want to call it? Like that's where it gets really interesting. It's like, following. Because I don't think intuition is a problem for most people. I think we get the intuitive hits all the time. The problem comes when we like
Have to
resist.
listen.
Yeah. And then, because then our nervous system responds, we're like, oh shit, I have to break up with the guy, or oh God, like I didn't think I was gonna have to like, do this crazy thing now. Like, and that's then we stay stuck in those loops because it's really scary. Change can be really hard, but yeah, I mean, choosing yourself, yeah, and the guilt, overcoming like the guilt and all of the things that come up with choosing yourself. Yeah, it's quite a ride, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's worth
Yeah.
it. It's worth
Yeah.
it.
And that's honestly a lot of like the offerings that I have now are supportive of that. Like I created things that I needed on my journey, basically, and that's what I offer to others. And I've got some big visions and plans for the future. Hopefully that things are going to be changing. But at the moment, yeah, you can work with me one-on-one. I do like one-on-one consults and then a lot of like text message support because I find we can get a lot of stuff done in a 90-minute session, but the real work is like
In
when you're in the
between.
thick of a trigger. Yeah, like you're like, oh gosh, I'm overwhelmed right now. What did Erin say? What was she talking about? What was that thing? You know what I mean? It's like so yeah, I do a lot of like guidance containers, pocket containers, like text messaging, stuff like that too. It's on my website, eringunzelman.com. And I do have a Patreon, a monthly group that we meet. And I've begun this venture. It's called Soul Symposiums, because I have just really dreamt for a very long time of creating spaces where we can come together and ask silly questions or really hard questions or connect the dots on a lot of things that are hard to talk about or maybe like just, like taboo. And when you join the Patreon, you also get access to this transmission vault library that I've been building for the last year. It's just downloads. Like I like somewhere where I can just like upload some riffs, thoughts, patterns I'm seeing, stuff I'm noticing. So there's everything in there from like nutrition, diet stuff, metaphysics of weight loss to, like conspiracy theory stuff, like energetics. Like I do energy reads sometimes. There's breath work and guided meditations. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. So yeah, the Patreon, one-on-one
That sounds
work.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because there's really a good group accumulating for these soul symposiums, and sometimes I invite my friends, like other people who are really embodied truth tellers, and we get into like we pick a theme, and there's always like an opening channeled message, but like the conversation never goes where I think it's gonna go. It's really beautiful. Like there's a container, and then the energy just flows freely because I really want everyone to participate. Like get in the chat, ask the questions, like speak. And that's really what drives all of it because like life, like everything is evolving and changing and um yeah, we activate one another when we come into contact with one another. So that is hopefully like part of the plan is to get more people together in person and do this stuff. And just yeah, like share, like we're discovering things at kind of an exponential rate right now. I was just at Alex Zach's it's called Confluence. He had a big festival in Texas and it was incredible to be around so many like minds, people who are really dedicating their lives to this kind of work, but have been on this journey of the ridicule and like the all the things that come with being first, or pioneers in something and to really activate everyone and bring them together and connect the dots really because it's like this person's work actually is informing this person's work and it's just so beautiful the way that everyone's puzzle piece is creating a beautiful puzzle, yeah, a painting, yeah.
Yeah, so cool. I know I was thinking a lot. I was thinking the whole time you were talking about the puzzle piece.
Yeah.
How, we get to the more, and it's just the tips and tricks, and like we can't embody our puzzle piece if we're following like somebody else's outline, we can't
No.
fully fill it out to its greatest potential, and like the
Yeah.
perfect fit is us being as us specifically ourselves as we can be.
You are the only you. Yeah, I call it the pathless path. Like you don't know it until you start walking it because no one else has walked it. Like you're the only one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately and fortunately, it's like the paradox is both and. It's like, wow, that's incredibly freeing that I don't have to like go buy something now that's going to teach me how to do it, right? And that's not a knock. There's plenty of great courses and studies out there and but you do have all the answers. Like you have everything you need when you're connected to that infinite intelligence And it's just a matter of, yeah, clearing away the programs, clearing away all the noise and reconnecting. And that's really what I want to help people do. It's like get back in touch with that voice, that feeling and using your body. And um, yeah,
That's so
yeah,
exciting. I love that.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that was such a
Thank you.
good chat.
Thank
Thank
you so much. Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It's such a enlightening, uplifting episode. I love the overarching theme of unconditional love for ourselves and our journey. And if this episode resonated with you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And otherwise, until next time, bye.